Are you currently in the housing market as a buyer and feel like you're playing the Squid Game? You're worried about buying a house at the top of the market, then a housing crash happens, and you ultimately end up way more on the property than it's worth? Well, there's a lot of home buyers out there that feel that way at this moment. And in today's video, we're gonna dive into what's actually happening in the housing market if you're a buyer or a seller moving into the end of the year, what to expect over the next couple of months, and what to expect as we turn the corner. Now, watching the housing market at the moment may feel like that game of red light, green light, and Squid Game, where you're going, you stop, and then all of a sudden the market changes and you don't know what to do. Well, my goal with this channel is to help you navigate that, help you understand exactly what the market's doing so that you can make sensible, rational decisions, not get caught up in the emotion of home buying. So at the end of the day, you feel good about the purchase of your home. My name is Jeb Smith. I'm a real estate broker here in Southern California. My channel's all about real estate. I want to take a minute here and ask a favor. If you think the mustache on my face is absolutely awful, hit that thumbs up so that I can shave it off. And if you like it, hit the thumbs down. I know completely different than anything I would normally ask for, but we're taking a survey here with the family and I'm trying to get this thing off my face. So in this case, thumbs down means you like it. But either way, if you appreciate the content that I put out, hit that subscribe button, stay up to date on everything real estate related. Now, if you've been following the Squid Game at all, you've been watching it on Netflix, you know that everything is either life or death in the show, right? You either succeed or you die. And a lot of people believe that the housing market is similar to that at the moment. You know, we went from our grandparents buying homes to never thinking about where the direction of the home price was going, right? They were just worried about could they make the monthly payment every month, to now the current generation is worried about the housing price, you know, the day after they purchase it. They're constantly following what's the housing market doing today, what's it doing the next day, and they're constantly watching it almost as if it's a stock in a portfolio and they're looking to sell it. And what I want to tell you before diving into this information is you have to stop doing that, right? Housing isn't a short-term investment. It's not a short-term play. Now, a lot of people have done very, very well over the last 18 months or so by buying property and the market going up by over 20-25% in some markets. And, people are getting the idea that, hey, I can just do this anytime. I can buy a house and in a year it's worth more. I can sell it, maybe buy something else, do it again over and over again. This isn't a normal market, right? And it's not likely to be one for some time. But what I want to do now is talk about what's actually happening with the housing market as we move into the end of the year so that you can use that to help you have a better home buying experience. So if you're watching the headlines out there at all right now, you're seeing a lot of headlines that read that the housing market is cooling. You have Zillow coming out saying that they're stopping home buying through the end of 2022. So what does that actually mean? How does that translate into real data for you as a home buyer? Well, we received news last week that pending home sales, which is a forward-looking indicator, actually declined by 2.3%. So contract signings actually went down. That means the number of properties going into escrow declined by 2.3% from August. So August had more contract signings than that of September, which, if you're looking at a graph, means down, right? Less people are actually going into escrow, and we're 8% lower than this time last year. So if you read that data, looking at just 1 month, you ultimately think there might be a change in the housing market. But as I've mentioned many, many times, it's seasonal, right? This is the time of year when things start to slow. You're starting to get into the holiday season. Less people typically look for homes this time of year. Less people actually put their homes on the market. In a lot of markets, like here in Southern California where I'm located, we're actually seeing less inventory on the market. So less homes on the market. Buyer demand is somewhat stable, strong, right? A lot of the offers I'm putting in fact, every offer I've put in for a buyer, I can't name the last time that there wasn't a multiple offer situation where there wasn't another offer on the table at the time we were submitting an offer. And that's still the case, right? I'm about to write an offer on a property this morning and there's multiple offers on it. And this one's upwards of $1 million. So, we're not short of buyer demand out there, but we are short of inventory. And when there's not a lot of inventory to choose from, right, you're not going to have people able to go under contract. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason that you're seeing numbers decline. You also have to remember where we're coming from, right? 8% less than last year. Last year, 2020 was a super hot housing market in September. So the fact that we're 8% lower than last year doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad housing market. It just means that we're putting less homes under contract than we did this time last year. And I will tell you, last year was a little bit different because you missed a quarter of the year. The beginning of 2020 was basically gone because of the pandemic, which pushed everything a little bit forward, if you will, with regards to the seasonality of the market. So that last quarter of last year was kind of like the summer market because we missed that first quarter. So last year is really hard to base numbers off of, but the fact that we're down 8% does show that the housing market is cooling a little bit, which for buyers is a good thing. Now, as a real estate agent, one thing I do want to mention, all real estate is local, right? So depending on where you're located, your market might be a little bit different than what I'm talking about here. You might have a ton of inventory on the market. You might be putting in offers and no one's bidding on them. That could be normal for your market at the moment. But here in Southern California, my market is essentially what I was just talking about. But I want to take a minute here and talk about another market, another super hot housing market, and that's the Phoenix market. And I'm talking about the metro area of Phoenix. I get a report from one of the agents I know there that's a good friend we network with, and he sends me a report every month called the Cromford Report. And essentially it says what's happening in that market. And there, inventory is actually picking up. But understand, inventory is picking up, and now there's a full 1 month supply of homes. 1 month supply of homes. Now that seems crazy that, we're talking about a report here where inventory is actually increasing and you're now only at 1 month supply. And he goes on to say in the report that he can't remember the last time he saw a month of supply of homes. And understand, a balanced market where buyers and sellers are equal is about 6 months of inventory on the market, right? So you still need quite a bit more inventory in that market to have a balanced market. But the fact is, inventory has increased to a level that he hasn't seen in some time. In fact, the median number of days on the market is also increasing in that market. He's also seeing more rentals in that market. And another thing to point out is Zillow. Zillow has stopped buying homes for the rest of 2021. Now, a lot of people believe out there that Zillow bought too many homes. They see that the housing market's going to crash, that there's going to be this big decline in home prices, and therefore that's not the reason they're buying. Regardless of what you think, I strongly believe that you're going to see Zillow come back in the housing market in 2022. A lot of the other players out there, the Open Doors, those guys are still buying homes. So I do believe you're going to see Zillow start buying homes again. It might be, it might not be January 1st of 2022, but they are going to start buying homes, which is going to mean more competition in the market. But for the time being, they're not in the market. You have inventory increasing, which is a good thing. Which means as a buyer, it could be a good time to get into the market, right? We know where interest rates are at the moment. In fact, this week we have a Fed funds meeting, and they're very likely in that meeting to announce that they're going to start tapering the bond purchases, the mortgage-backed security purchases, which should send interest rates a little bit lower. Because one of the main reasons that interest rates have creeped up is because a lot of people were worried that the Fed wasn't going to do anything, that they were going to let inflation run out of control. And the fact that they've now hinted that they're likely to start tapering should put some stability in the market and hopefully send rates down. And the reason I mention this is because if you have inventory increasing, you have stable rates, it could be a good opportunity to get into the housing market if you can find a house that actually meets what you're looking for. Now, I'm not telling you to just go out and buy a house to buy a house. It still has to make sense. It still has to make sense, to meet your non-negotiable list, what you want, what you need in a house. Financially, it needs to make sense. You shouldn't just go out and buy a property to buy a property. But what I will tell you is that as we move, towards the end of the year, you're likely to see things slow just a little bit. Like we've seen, less inventory on the market, probably less properties going under contract just because there is less inventory. But in markets like Phoenix, if you have inventory increasing, this could be a good opportunity to grab something, because I do believe as you turn the beginning of 2022, a couple of weeks after that, the spring market typically starts around Super Bowl. I think you're likely to see a similar market as to what we normally see, a hot spring. More inventory on the market, giving buyers more options, which means if you're looking, then you're probably going to have more competition. Yeah, you're going to have more property to choose from, but you're also going to be competing against multiple offers. And if you don't want that competition, I often have buyers come to me and say, I'm a buyer, but I don't want to get in a bidding war. I don't want to have to go above the asking price. I don't want to have to do all this crazy stuff. Understandable, but unfortunately, that's the market that you're kind of in at the moment. So, I think the spring is going to be more of that. So if you can find something now, chances are you're going to be putting yourself in a better position versus competing in the spring. And there are some major companies out there, Goldman Sachs predicting 16% increase in home prices next year. You got Zillow saying 12%. You have the National Association of Realtors predicting around 5%. And then you have CoreLogic predicting around 2%. So if you just took an average from the high to the low, 16 to 2, that's an average of about 8%. And even if you took the high out, the high of 16 and the low of 2, and you just took the two middles, 8 and 5 in this case, you're still looking somewhere around 7.5% increase in appreciation next year. Now, this isn't my rant to tell you to buy a home, but if you've been watching my channel for any time, I do believe that the housing market is going to continue to move upwards. It's driven by supply and demand, and right now supply, while it has increased in many markets, is still sitting around 2.4 months of supply nationwide, which is well below where we need to be to have anywhere close to a balanced market, and it's going to take time for that to happen. So while it might look like a big change in the housing market at the moment, I think it's probably more seasonality than anything else, but you just have to keep watching it, right? Stick to your plan. Don't get caught up in the FOMO of the market. Don't make irrational emotional decisions. Make sure you can afford it. You have money in the bank, all the things that I normally preach, and have a longer term horizon, right? I don't believe that this is necessarily a top in the market, but I do believe that at some point home prices have to pull back. And I'm currently seeing homes sell at prices that's hard for me to fathom, right? I'm looking at some prices here in Southern California thinking if I were a first-time home buyer and I had to buy that, I'd probably move out of state and buy something because it's hard for me to justify what these homes are selling for. But at the same time, even saying that, I don't see much of a change happening over the next couple of years. Something needs to happen with inventory. And right now you have millennials coming into the market. You have the boomers not selling like a lot of people thought they were. You've got investors taking up inventory because they see the direction of inflation and the rental market. So with all of that said, I think you're likely to see home prices continue for some time. So if you're wondering if you should buy now or wait, do me a favor, check out this video here. I dive into it in a little bit more detail. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I appreciate all the support. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.